are here for another week of Friday Night Drive, week number 3 underway. We are starting to see some finals, and thank you for joining us for the next 90 minutes for me, maybe a little bit longer, and for Steve Soucie, who is definitely going deep into the darkness of the night as we look for all things scores around the state. So if you have the scores, you know what's going on, jump in the chat here on the stream as we continue to update you. We do have some finals. We have some storylines developing, and we're going to get to all of that. Steve Soucie, let me ask you, what are some of the things that are jumping out to you right out of the gate here in week number 3?
Well, I know we talked a lot earlier in the week about how we thought maybe the Duquesne Conference was going to be that conference where you had all those wild finishes. That's definitely not happening. That's shifted over to the Chicago Catholic League this evening. We've had some very interesting results come in so far. Obviously, the first one that really standds out, Loyola in their first ever night game up in Wilmette tonight. St. Francis comes in and claims a 35-21 win in that one. No Ryan Fitzgerald for Loyola. Obviously, that's a big factor in what Loyola is able to do, but still a gigantic win for St. Francis in the grand scheme of things.
St. Francis with a landmark win. I think it's fair to say a very good program, but for them to go up there in Wilmette on a ceremonial night where all things are against you, so to speak, that is a very impressive win. And for those kids, and I want to point out to those seniors at St. Francis, that is a win they are never going to forget for the rest of their lives, to go up there and knock out the defending state champions, 2-time state champions, and to do it on their home field, to put them, and ruin essentially a ceremonial evening in Wilmette. One that also entered into this spot with slight controversy. There's neighbors in Wilmette that didn't always want lights. This was a fight that went back and forth, and it's certainly not helping the narrative of having Friday night football up there. But fascinating, no less. That's not really something that St. Francis fans worry about. But the folks that head to school in Wheaton, I tell you what, Route 38 is going to be nice and crowded here in the next few minutes when they all get back.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be one of those situations you look back on it. Maybe they'll get the football program to agree with them now that maybe lights weren't such a great idea. But now you're looking at, obviously, Loyola at 1-2, another fascinating result from the Catholic League as well. St. Rita has just put the finishing touches on a 14-7 win over Brother Rice. That drops Brother Rice to 1-2 on the season. St. Rita winning that game with 1 minute and 2 seconds left on an 80-yard touchdown bomb from Stephen Armbruster to Walter Jones. So that is a big surprise at this point in time, because if you had asked me at the beginning of the season, there's going to be 2 teams in the CCL Blue that are going to be 1-2. I would have had a hard time coming up with that. And St. Ignatius is in a dogfight right now with IC Catholic. They're up 4 points in the fourth quarter, so it might end up being 3. Mount Carmel is not having a lot of problems tonight scoring points against Nazareth. I believe they're still up 2 touchdowns in that one.
It's actually down to a 1-point game right now. It's 28-27. They're at the break right now, so keeping an eye on that one. They're about 10 minutes out of coming out of halftime. We're going to see that whole second half, or you and I are going to be able to watch that while we talk with you here on the stream, on the Friday night stream. Just some of the scores that I'm watching. Marist with a 21-0 lead on Montini. That's in the second half, late third quarter there. Batavia, by the way, as we go back to Duquesne, 49-6 on Lake Park. That's Batavia's homecoming. You wonder about Lake Park, if they could hang with them. The answer is no tonight, and that's all right. I was at St. Charles North tonight to watch what I thought was going to be a tight game between St. Charles North and Wheaton North, and this was the scenario. If you've been following me on Twitter, I mentioned it like once or twice. This is the nightmare game. You usually have one, and Wheaton North is a couple of injuries. The tailback's been banged up a little bit. They had a pick 6 on just a really tough throw across the field. Turnover on third down inside their own 10 that turned into a score on fourth down a couple plays later. Just literally everything going wrong, and of course the just the snowball effect. And standing on the Wheaton North sideline, I could feel it. Ethan Plum looked pretty comfortable, pretty good. He was able to do some things once he had the lead a little bit. They were able to run the football. St. Charles North had some push up front. They're bigger. I don't know about if they're faster, but they're taller. And they have a tall receiving core, which makes it really interesting when they get around the goal line, because they have a lot of jump ball options, so to speak. And with a guy like Ethan Plum, as we talked about 2 weeks ago, not really talked about nearly as much as we saw maybe a couple of years ago. now that he has these options and the arm control and the accuracy for a guy like him that's being looked at as a D1 guy, that's really interesting to me as we get deeper in the season. So curious to see St. Charles North and how they finished. It was a 28-0 lead, ended up being a 31-14 final, but this thing was over midway through the second quarter. So blowouts all over the place in the Duquesne Conference tonight. Geneva was trying to stay in front of Wheaton South. We'll get a final of that. Just a couple more finals, Soucie, and as you can keep an eye on some of the things that you're watching, I'll go through some scores that we do have. And again, you see the ticker there, so we have those scores coming in, so make sure you're taking a look at the ticker as we go here. Some of them are live scores. Lena Winslow had a little trouble with Stockton tonight. They weren't able to get that win as they pulled away late, 30-14 on Stockton. Byron, we talked about this game out of at the beginning of the year. They went down to Williamsville to play the Bullets, and they rudely took care of the hosts, 41-3 as Byron took care of Williamsville tonight. I want to come back to Libertyville in just a second. You gave me this score, Oak Forest and Hillcrest. The Bengals, a 24-20 win over Hillcrest. We haven't seen the Bengals factor into the postseason mix in quite some time. That's a big win for Oak Forest Nation.
Yeah, that in the South Suburban Conference, Oak Forest has struggled to get out of the second division for several seasons now. And usually when you're kind of looking at them before the season begins, you just kind of figure them down in the middle to the bottom of the conference. But that could be a breakthrough win for this program. Hillcrest, obviously, year after year, at least in recent vintage, has been up near the top of the conference, if not winning it. So a nice win for Oak Forest tonight.
Libertyville with a 43-14 win on Stevenson. We knew the Wildcats were good. We really know now how good they are.
Yeah, they really flexed. I watched a good chunk of that game early on, and then I moved on to other games because it was clear that Libertyville had that game in hand, scored really early in the game, just kind of took control of it. Definitely a team that I've put on my radar pretty quickly here early in the season, but they have definitely proved that they belong in that discussion to make a run potentially at this conference championship.
Again, some of the other scores coming in, including the Central Rockets over Crystal Lake South, 33-6. The Gators now 0-3 on the season. You haven't seen that in quite some time up in Crystal Lake. One score we're watching up in Lake Forest, the Scouts, it's 24-0 right now on Warren. We saw Warren put 55 points on the board against Hersey a couple weeks ago. It looks like a different team right now. It's credit to Lake Forest all the way.
I have that down in the corner of my screen right now, and it seems like every time I pop in to look in, Lake Forest is celebrating something. I think my feed is a little bit behind because I'm just seeing them kick the extra point after that touchdown. But it has appeared to be an absolutely dominating performance, particularly on defense. Warren can't do anything.
Marist right now 21-0 on Montini down in the south side. That game by 8.5 minutes left in that one. They're still at the half at Mount Carmel, by the way. Again, 28-27, that score. So if you have scores, jump on into the feed. Some of the games that we're covering where we have folks out at tonight. Let's start with Josh Welge, who is at the Sandwich War on 34. What is it, 113 times they've played now? 1896. And for a while, there was like a 4 or 5 year stretch because of COVID and because of Sandwich numbers where they didn't play because somebody had some sort of COVID issue with one of their teams. So they had a good 4 or 5 stretch where they didn't play. And so, that was that was a rout. The last check on that one, Sandwich was up big. And I want to say that was a 41-16 lead for the Sandwich Indians. That's about midway through the fourth quarter as we're watching that one at Plano. That's about a 3-minute drive, I think, from Sandwich to Plano on Route 34. You got like a Burger King, maybe a movie. They do have a movie theater out there now, I think, in between. So it's and those two factoring in the first time they played each other as a Kishwaukee River game. So it's a little bit of history tonight down there in Plano.
Yeah, definitely. And, a good situation there for, Sandwich coming back in that one, kind of taking control of it because they've been off to a little bit of a rough start to start the season. So a nice little rebound for them.
All right, we have some highlights to start things off with. I'll get things going here. Highlights. Here's what's happening. Week 3 to start things off.
return is
Go Hart!
Brady Hart.
Let's go!
Second down.
A 3rd-and-1 play, second quarter at the Sycamore 23. Misdirection. And that is Burke Goucher fighting for the yardage.
And those are the highlights to start things off. What jumps out to you? I'll let you go first because there are a couple things I saw in there.
Well, I mean, right now it just looks like, we're having a lot of these games that are just opening up pretty wide, and some of them are a little bit of a surprise. But the one that that comes out of that package a little bit for me is Johnsburg is kind of taking advantage of Richmond Burton tonight, and that was something that, to be honest with you, even though Richmond Burton lost to Quincy Notre Dame, I thought that once they got back into conference play, they would be, they would reassume their place on top of that podium once they got back into league play. But it doesn't look like that's the case because
no, you talked about it last week. Yeah.
Yeah. Last I saw, they were up 2 scores. So that could potentially be a big win for Johnsburg.
And of course, you said, hey, here's RB and here's everybody else, and maybe they're drifting back down a little bit here just to catch the rest of the pack. And maybe we're starting to see that tonight. So for that, Richmond Burton. The aesthetics jumped out to me. The atmosphere for Peoria Morris had to be really electric. That had to be a fun atmosphere for a lot of people down there at Morris. Those two teams have a bit of a history last couple of years. If you dated a couple of years back in terms of their postseason matchups. Also, I noticed the Wheaton-Warrenville South crowd. There were a ton of students in that student section. That's bigger than you usually see for a school of around 2,000. It sounds like a lot, but really you don't see that many. But to see as much as you did, kudos to the student section at Wheaton-Warrenville South tonight. That you guys showed out tonight. I certainly took notice for sure with the big whiteout. Got one thing that just came in. You're gonna like this. Crystal Lake Central going for the game-winning field goal with 8 seconds left against Dundee Crown. It was blocked, and so they're going to overtime in that one. It's not
the week of the kicker anymore, apparently.
No, it's the week of the special teams blocking the kicker, so to speak. And again, in that closed conference, that changes nothing for playoff points. That's just more amusing than anything. So we'll keep an eye and see if we can get a final on that. We have Cole City and Streeter. JD Penalty was there to watch the Kohlers tonight, and let's see what he had to say.
JT Penalty here at Doug Deacon Stadium, where the Cole City Kohlers defeated Streeter 56-6. Bulldogs get on the board right at the end. On a nice juggling catch, but it was all Cole City here. Kohlers improved to 2-1. Streeter falls to 1-2 in both teams' Illinois Central 8 conference opener. Landon Benson with the big first half for Cole City. The running back had 153 yards rushing and a pair of touchdowns.
So big win for the Kohlers. What do you make of that?
That's kind of what you've come to expect from Cole City in the Illinois Central 8 at this point in time. It almost seems like for at least the last 5 to 6 years, all of these other conference games are just a precursor for when Cole City plays Wilmington. That's really what it seems to come down to every year in this league. Wilmington, obviously, at the top of the pile, but Coal City has gotten them a few times, maybe not real recently, but has beat them before in the series. And there's not a lot of other schools in that conference can say they have beat Wilmington on an even irregular basis.
Yeah, it's one and maybe tier 2 and then everybody else kind of at that point. And we've seen Seneca last couple of years really reach out and do well in that conference. Final down in Mahomet Seymour, the Spartans beat Mahomet Seymour 21-13. We're going to get a recap of that one from Eddie Carifio in a little while. Naperville Central 31-14 over Andrew tonight. That's final. Naperville North 21, Lincoln Way Central 20. That just went final as well. So that one was tight. Hinsdale South with a shutout over Leiden 38-zip. Mantino 42-0 over Herscher, a final in that one. Cary Grove rolling away from McHenry. No surprise there. Now the Trojans are 3-0, a 48-7 win in that one. And a Wilmington final, 56-7 over the Lisle Lions tonight. We also didn't get to mention, did we mention Rochelle and Highland in that one? A final of 41-22. We did get that one. The Hubs and Highland. I was curious about this one. This is a neutral site game at Illinois Wesleyan tonight, so they didn't have to travel all the way back and down, but it was a great idea. I wish more teams would do this, by the way. Go play in the center of the state and then bring everybody there. That's a heck of an experience for everybody. I know it's not that simple. I know every athletic director watching this goes, yeah, you know how hard that is to do. I get it. But it's a great experience, I think, for the students and also for the football team to have that road trip. And for the Rochelle Hubs, they're getting a real good look at themselves these first 3 weeks.
Well, it was kind of a team that I kind of had out on the outskirts of my radar. Everything I'd heard in the offseason about Rochelle was positive and encouraging. So I'm not really all that surprised by this win tonight. I'm a little surprised by the gap. They won that game really comfortably. I thought that would be a somewhat high-scoring game that would probably go back and forth, but it looks like Rochelle controlled this one, and yet another feather in their cap here early in the season. So I have a feeling that when we look back, when we look ahead a couple of weeks from now, we're going to see some Interstate 8 matchups that we were like before the season. Maybe we thought somebody was going to be the favored team there. We might have to change those assessments a little bit as we get deeper in the year. And I think Rochelle might have something to say about who ends up ultimately winning this conference.
Appreciate the final coming in from Levi. Final from Havana. The Ducks, a 20-6 win over South Fulton. It's a final also in Wheaton as the Geneva Vikings take out the Tigers. A final of 45-31. Joel Bennett saying combined 700 yards of offense, but Geneva had a stretch where they were up 30. They had a 35-3 stretch after trailing 7-3 early on. What do you make of the Vikings here? We'll talk quickly before we can move on with there seems to be some depth in terms of their offense. Not just the Talon Taylor show. There's some people, and maybe it's because Talon's drawing so much attention, everybody else is producing.
Well, it definitely seems like they found another gear. I mean, last year we were, there were some injury issues. They never really got clicking the way that I think a lot of people thought they might. It really looks like that's happening now. For whatever reason, they seem to have taken those little puzzle pieces and found the right fit, because right now they are really taking schools to task. That was another game tonight that I thought, honestly, might be a little bit more competitive than it turned out to be. The score makes it look like it was a closer game than I think it really was. I watched a good chunk of that here. Geneva got out big early. So, it was definitely a situation where they tightened it up a little bit at the end, but so far so good for Geneva. There's not really a lot to complain about.
Again, 45-31 the final. The Vikings were up 38-10 at one point in that second half. Speaking of big leads, York, the Dukes, 47-21 on Downers Grove South. They're in the second half. Actually, the final minute of the third quarter in that one. The York Dukes, we haven't talked much about them. It's that conference also very good, and there's a lot of depth as we suddenly watch Hinsdale Central do some damage tonight. So that conference is interesting too.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those things. And we talked about this before with York. York might not be the flashiest team, but boy, they just know how to get things done. And it's very difficult for any team in that conference to stack wins, but kind of under the radar, that's what York does. They stack wins, and then all of a sudden you're in the middle of the season, and they're already good in regards to getting into the playoffs. Not that they want to lose games in the second half of the season, but they have the they have the opportunity, if something does go wrong, they've got that cushion that they've built, and they're doing it again. They're stacking those wins, and now they're in really good shape moving into the. I mean, believe it or not, we're third of the way done after the regular season after tonight.
Amazing.
So I mean, but they put themselves in the best possible position that they can.
I'm jumping all over screens here, but how about the ho-hum win for Lincoln Way East, 49-3, 6:00 start. They got out of there. Nice and easy night for them.
I didn't realize that the game started at 6:00, and I clicked on the feed, and it was 35-0 in the first quarter. And I was like, well, wait a minute, is that the JV game? And I'm like, no, they started at 6. That's the varsity game. I clicked in at about 6:20, and they were already up 35-0. So
Grant mentions Marengo and Woodstock North, 14-14. They're in the fourth. Of course, Thunder driving. So we'll keep an eye on that one because KRC is it seems like it's wide open at this point, a little more than we thought it would be in terms of anyone that can take that automatic bid, that conference bid, so to speak. Ridgewood, a 31-14 winner over Riverside Brookfield. Wasn't sure what we get from the Bulldogs this year. Maybe the Rebels are better, and maybe it's just a little bit of struggles switching over to that new conference for them.
Yeah, definitely a situation there. So just wanted to point this out. I'm not sure if this was at the end of the game, but I'm just looking at a clip of the Naperville North Lincoln Way Central game, and the play description was a Jacob Bell touchdown pass to Quinn Morris. Yeah, it looks like it was the last game.
In overtime.
A really spectacular play in the back of the end zone by Plainfield East transfer Quinn Morris, catching that ball, and then they tacked down the extra point to win it. Definitely a spectacular finish there, Naperville North and Lincoln Way Central.
Yeah, that one going to overtime, by the way. So just to be clear, Batavia 56-6 over Lake Park. That's now final. Antioch is back 63-0 over Round Lake. And again, as we mentioned, the final from St. Charles North, 31-14 over Wheaton North. Let's see, where do we want to go here? Also, I see this final coming in here from Canelan with the Knights over DeKalb, 42-7. I'm not sure if it's DeKalb kind of sliding back because of how things are going with them in terms of the margin. We know Canelan's good, but are they 35 points better than DeKalb? I'm not sure about that.
Well, when we looked at what was going on early in the season, when they lost that narrow game to Sycamore, then in week 2 they fell to Plainfield South, and then now dropping this one. The unfortunate thing for DeKalb is that in their new conference alignment, things get no easier. They get no breaks. I mean, it's a very difficult sled for them in the new Southwest Valley. Right now, it might not matter, to be honest with you, if they've slid back a little bit. The competition is just going to keep coming at them. They're not going to get a chance to regroup. So tough start for DeKalb. And to be honest with you, I don't know how many opportunities they're going to have to kind of stop that momentum swing in that direction.
Crystal Lake Central gets off the schneid. They win in overtime 17-14 over Dundee Crown. That just went final a couple of seconds ago. Keeping an eye on everything going on around the state before we take a break to stretch our legs a little bit and see if we can get a refresh of things. They have started the second half, by the way, at Mount Carmel. That's a tight one right now. 28-27, the Caravan leading just about 3 minutes in to that second half. Mount Carmel with the ball around midfield. So earlier we saw Jack Elliott kind of go down as he fumbled the football, shook his wrist a little bit, looked like it really bothered him, but he's back out there right now. So that's nothing to terribly worry about for Mount Carmel fans. Another final that just came in, Sterling with a 27-26 win over United Township. We're going to get a report from that game from Drake Landsman more than likely here as we go. Back to Canelan, just to tie a bow on it. Eddie Caripio was at Sycamore. We did have some folks at Canelan. I'm curious to hear that report here, so maybe we get a chance to listen in on that. As you scan the scene right now, we haven't seen too many news storylines develop here. We're watching the Catholic League kind of cannibalize each other here. Who needs this game more? Is it Mount Carmel or Nazareth that needs this game more if you're looking at the two of them?
I honestly don't know the answer to that. I mean, it's one of those things where you look at who Nazareth has to play once they get into divisional play, and that's a loaded division too. So, I mean, Mount Carmel, yes, they need it. They need to stay away from falling below 500 because they've still got 3 blue games left. And the way that the blue teams have produced, I think all of them so far are going to need those wins. And in the past, it's been like, okay, we're going to go outside of the conference and pick up the wins that we need. So far, that's not happening. So, I mean, once you get into league play, somebody's got to lose these games. I mean, ultimately. So if you go into a situation, if Mount Carmel were to somehow lose this game and go to 2 losses, they're in a much worse situation than they would have ordinarily been having 2 losses, because the blue looks wide open. It looks like whoever shows up on that given night has a potential of winning those games. So here's an interesting stat that I just came across. Sandburg leads Homewood Flossmoor 49-20. That's at half.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're at halftime right now.
That's a score that I got a little while ago, but they might just be starting the second half and out. But it was 49-20 at half. Sandburg putting up 7 touchdowns in the first half.
I would encourage the 7:00 kicks as opposed to the 7:30 kicks, guys.
Yeah.
Especially in this pass-happy world that we all live in, because the clock stops every time, and we're seeing it at Mount Carmel right now when everyone scores back and forth. It takes forever. So the folks in LaGrange Park, or actually, and being in the South Side, that's a drive back after that game for sure. Hey, taking a look at Nazareth's schedule, by the way, this is the only road game in their first 5 weeks. So they were at home for Kankakee, home for Kenwood. They're at Mount Carmel tonight, and then they go back home for IC Catholic and Joliet Catholic right after that. The rest of their schedule looks like St. Rita, De La Salle, Bennett, and then week 9 at St. Francis. So week 9, depending on how this shakes out, if they can go in and get that win over Mount Carmel, you would think normally all eyes on a Friday night would be up in Wilmette for that Wilmette-Mount Carmel game. The Premier Catholic League game, calling it maybe 6 weeks at a time, could be Nazareth and St. Francis doing battle, in week 9.
Just saw a final on that Downers Grove North Glenbard West game. 42-7 is the final on that contest. And I'm sitting here trying to go through my memory bank and remember the last time Glenbard West was 0-3. And I'm having a hard time coming up with what the answer is. So
we'd have to do some serious digging. You know what we'll try and do? We'll see if we can get an answer for everybody on that before we get back here on Monday for the podcast. Again, we got a dozen reporters or so out and about. Curious to hear what Joel Bennett has to say about the Geneva offense and just some of the production. Maybe he'll have a chance to talk to some of those guys, Talon Taylor and company. Once again, 45 points, and you didn't really see Talon Taylor on the feed of scoring. As you watched along Twitter here. So as we continue to scan scores that keep coming in, we love your scores. Keep sending them in. Yeah, go ahead.
Fourth quarter score right here. Peoria and Morris are locked up at 42.
You want to talk about a long drive? Leaving Morris, going back down to Peoria. Caravan, by the way, 35-27. That game is midway through the third quarter, and so they're slogging along in that one. Somebody in the feed asked a question, a good one there. Robert asked, whatever happened to the Little 7 conference? I can actually give you that answer.
Okay.
So why don't we do that? Let's tease that, and then we'll get back to scores here as we get a whole flurry of scores that are starting to come in right now. So we'll get to that. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. This is week 3, Friday Night Drive right here. Stay with us.
We're here to help you with your problems that result from an automobile accident or an injury on the job or the loss of a loved one. There's no reason you should go through this alone and guess that you're doing things right.
We deal with tragedies that affect families and individuals every day.
Come here and protect your interests. We've been doing this collectively for over 100 years. Let's put that experience to work for you.
Hey, football fans, listen up. I'm top there, and I drive a Hawk. I got it from my friends at Hawk Volkswagen. So drive what I drive. Drive a Hawk. Hawk Volkswagen on Jefferson Street in Joliet or online at hawkvw.com.
I like Reich.
I like Reich.
Since 2016, it's been my privilege to represent the people of the 63rd District. I want to continue representing you as an independent voice in Springfield.
I like Reich. We like Reich.
Do you ever wonder where the profits go when you shop at a big box store? Hi, this is Patty from Oliver's Corner Market. When you shop at Oliver's, you can rest assured that the profits stay local, supporting other local businesses and charities. Find us at the corner of Britton and Bradshaw in Dixon.
All right, we are back here on the Friday Night Drive. This is week number 3. Matt Rodewald, Steve Soucie, and a host of Shaw Media reporters with you here. We're taking you to 11 o'clock, and we're staying with you all night, deep into the night as we sort of sort things out, so to speak. I'm Matt Rodewald, he's Steve Soucie, and so to answer the question before we get back to scores, and there are a lot of them that are coming in too, the Little Seven Conference is a conference in the mid-'90s that ended in the mid-'90s. It was one of the oldest continuous conferences from 1921 until 1994. Growth in the western suburbs, okay? So what does that mean? Enrollments. And so they started to go a little this way, a little haywire. And so you had those enrollments. And if you haven't noticed, the schools like Riverside Brookfield, Ridgewood, Elmwood Park, Fenton, they've all been kind of in no man's land of conferences for a long, long time.
Yes.
Those 5 had no place to go. At the time, Little Seven Conference had 9, and places like Yorkville weren't nearly as big as they are now. Places like Minooka were growing. Morris was shrinking. Batavia, you get the idea. So they formed up to make a big super conference, and it didn't work. After 5 years, they split away. And then you had Plainfield. That was just one Plainfield at the time, and now there are 4. And then Oswego was 1, and then there are 2. So anyway, I could go on for hours on this. Maybe we could spend some time in the podcast. But I will tell you this, Mr. Soucie, some trivia. I was in the second to last event ever in the Little Seven Conference history, running the Frost-Soft 4x4 relay before the varsity, and then the conference ended. That was it. Boys tracked me. So I was at the last event participating as a freshman back in 1995, way too long ago. All right, we've got scores from everywhere.
Just caught an Alex Kentucky tweet. Johnsburg has finished off Richmond Burton 121-14. Johnsburg's first win over Richmond Burton since 2017.
Awesome win for the Skyhawks and Skyhawk Nation. Good for you guys. I'm sure it's going to be a fun night there. Sandwich and Plano, the war in 34. Not much of a war tonight. Sandwich ran away and hid from the Reapers. Josh Welge was there, and he's got more for us in the 113th edition.
Final from Plano, the 113th Plano versus Sandwich Route 34 rivalry. Sandwich with a 41-16 win over Plano. For Sandwich, Simeon Harris and Nick Michaelik, they both ran for over 100 yards, both of them near 150 yards. They each ran for a touchdown. Harris, a 75-yard touchdown. Sandwich actually had touchdowns from 4 different running backs, including their quarterback, Brady Behringer. He actually ran for 2 touchdowns, and he threw 1 for 1. Diego Gomez also ran for a touchdown. For Plano, Tim Young ran for a 5-yard touchdown run, and Amari Bryant with a 94-yard kickoff return. It was actually the opening kickoff of the game. Again, final, Sandwich beats Plano 41-16.
And we know Sandwich can run the ball, but their schedule has been iffy to start things off for them, to kind of get a read on them. Simeon Harris is really good. Can he do more damage in the KRC that is now wide open?
Yeah, it certainly looks like you just said, wide open. That's going to be kind of the highlight of that conference heading into the next couple of weeks, because it's all jumbled in there, and there's going to be an opportunity for someone to maybe break away from the pack. Maybe it won't happen at all. Maybe we'll just have consistent results like this where it's just kind of ping pong balls bouncing back and forth. But interesting final I just caught wind of. Joliet Catholic holds on for a 14-13 win over Fenwick.
Okay, so JCA gets some points on the board, more importantly, and then gets a win as well, so that they survive that one. Some other finals from around the state we're getting in. Dixon, the Dukes keep on rolling, 63-7 over Rock Falls. Seneca over Ottawa Marquette, 48-13. How about a low-scoring matchup between Oregon and Genoa Kingston in the Big Northern there? Nothing for the Cogs tonight. 3-0, final score there.
Don't see those very often, but
No,
that's actually the second one we've seen this year that I remember. I mean, obviously, back in week 1, Plainfield South beat Yorkville 3-0. So
what?
So maybe, like I said, maybe it's the year of the kicker, Matt. Maybe that's just what it is.
You're probably right. I mean, by the way, we mentioned it before. Crystal Lake Central had a field goal blocked to win the game, and then eventually won in overtime on a field goal. So once is fun, maybe twice is just as nice. What's going on with your Forreston Cardinals right now? Galena beats them 19-18 tonight.
Yeah, I don't know. Galena has been a surprise in the Northwest Upstate Illini so far this season. They've done a nice job out of the gate, and to be honest with you, I didn't know anything about them to start the year. So maybe I've got to reassess what Galena is rather than so much what Forreston is, because that's a good, solid win for them. I still believe in Forreston. I have no reason to question their track record, but that's definitely a loss that I did not see on the horizon. Another Catholic League final that I just got in, Carmel nips Providence 27-24. So that was one that Providence was leading for most of the game, and that was a game that, to be honest, looking forward, I really felt Providence needed. I felt like they really needed to get that win on what's on their schedule. So that's one of those week 3 games you don't want to call anything a must win, but that was pretty close to it for Providence, in my opinion.
Just how the schedule works out too sometimes with that. Rockford Lutheran 34-14 over Stillman Valley. Keeping an eye on Marengo and Woodstock North. That's a barn burner going down to the wire. We should have some more on that here in a little while. Watching Mount Carmel and Nazareth. They are still in the third quarter, ladies and gentlemen. It's the 10 o'clock hour. It's 35-27. Caravan with the lead in that one, and looks like it's Nazareth with the ball as they've gotten closer to the final minute of that third quarter. Bennett Academy over De La Salle, 42-0. Downers Grove North over Glenbard West, as you mentioned a couple of minutes ago, 42-7. South Elgin gets back on the horse, 56-0 over Larkin. So nice to see South Elgin take their 2 thumpings that they took in from Barrington and Batavia and turn that into positivity. You would imagine, the way you see this tonight, South Elgin might be looking at 6-3 or even 7-2.
Yeah, definitely one of those situations. But I also just got another final in here that was a little while ago. I don't know if we've already gone. Maybe I missed it earlier. But if you're a believer in the transitive property, this one will blow your brain up. Hershey 28, Maine South 23.
I don't understand this league. I don't understand. I give up. Between that and what we saw from Hershey and then what we're seeing from Warren tonight. I don't get that because Lake Forest is good. But Warren scored 55 points on that Hershey team that you just talked about. And right now they have nothing on the board. They're in the opening minute of the fourth quarter up there in Lake Forest. So it's 24-0 of the Scouts leading in that one. The York Dukes with a 54-21 lead on DGS. That one's still about 5 minutes left in that game there. So they got a ways to go. So those are some of the finals that we have coming in here. And we're still watching more coming in here. North Boone over Winnebago. The Winnebago Indians fall a final of 20-16 in that one. What else jumps out at you? One more jumping across. Lincoln Way West, 40-7 over Tia Valley. And Glenbard South, 63-8 over West Chicago. We had wondered if West Chicago could find a way to get back in the postseason. That doesn't look like it, if that's the case, if you're letting 63 on the board from the Raiders.
Yeah, that's a bit problematic for them moving forward. I'm still not ready to say that they can't, because there's a lot of teams in that conference that are struggling right now.
Sure.
That one right there is kind of an indicator that maybe they're closer to the bottom of that pack than the top of it. So
exactly.
So that might be, one of those things that we're watching throughout the regular season. You asked me what I'm looking at right now. You mentioned one of the teams right now just a few minutes ago in Lincoln Way West with their win tonight. That's a team that I don't think anybody's talking about right now. That's a lot better than people think. And another Southwest Valley team went to 3-0 tonight, and they're under the radar teams in my opinion right now. Bradley Bourbonnais went to 3-0 tonight. So basically you're looking at that new conference with the 15 teams and the 3 divisions and everything, and you've got your powerhouses at the top, but you've also got some teams that I think were probably considered second tier that are also making a pretty immediate statement as well. So nice starts for both Lincoln Way West and Bradley, in my opinion.
Deerfield 28, Buffalo Grove 7. That's the final. St. Lawrence with a shutout over Notre Dame tonight, 24-0 over the Dons. That kind of surprises me a little bit, but I'm not sure why exactly, in terms of whether Notre Dame is slipped or whether St. Lawrence is really staying with this here and could find themselves causing problems once again in the playoffs.
Well, that was one of those things. There were one of several games tonight in the Catholic League that I was looking at, just because it pitted a pair of 2-0 teams that maybe I didn't know that much about, at least one of them. So I was trying to get some measuring stick information. I saw that St. Viator and Marmion, that was another game. I saw St. Viator was winning that game. So basically, that was one of them. Another one that I was real interested in the Catholic League that I saw earlier, DePaul Prep appears to be on their way to a 3-0 mark. And like I was talking about earlier this week with somebody, I'm not sure who it was. I can't remember the last time. Well, DePaul Prep has probably never been 3-0 as DePaul Prep. you have to go back to the Gordon Tech days to find a 3-0 program of that school. So a great start for them. But yeah, I thought there were a lot of measuring stick games in the Catholic League. I was real interested to see how that St. Lawrence game came down with Notre Dame, because St. Lawrence hasn't played the strongest non-conference schedule, and Notre Dame was out 2-0. So I was wondering, well, who's going to get there? Who's going to get to that finish line? And it looks like St. Lawrence pulled that one off.
I want to go back to the Kishwaukee River. A couple of games came down to the wire here tonight. Just getting notes on Marengo, who got it all the way at the Woodstock North 14-yard line, had 4th and 8, could not convert. And so Woodstock North gets the 20-14 win at home. And also, we talked about a couple minutes ago, the Johnsburg Skyhawks had not beaten Richmond Burton since 2017. Final play, here's what it looked like. So it wasn't the final play; it was a celebration. So there you go. As you see Johnsburg. By the way, just some notes on Woodstock North. They had a pass into the end zone, deflected just barely. Otherwise, that's a touchdown, and that's a very different result. So they couldn't connect there. But Woodstock North 3-0, and that's a team that could also say, "Hey, what about us?" in terms of how they can compete in the KRC.
Yeah, and it's another one of those leagues. We talked about them a little bit earlier. Where I think we might end up getting a whole bunch of teams to playoff qualification, and they're all going to be on the bottom side of the bracket because they've been beating each other up all year long. They're all going to end up with 2-3 losses, but they're going to get themselves in, but they're going to have a double-digit seed by their name because their league was so, parity's not the word I want to use because I'm not sure if it's parity.
Right.
Maybe we just got a congregation of a lot of, good football schools, and you're going to get random results based on that fact that the margins are so slim between the two teams.
Wheeling, a big win tonight. How about that? Wheeling got a win 27-7 over Vernon Hills. They get on the board for the year, first win of the season.
There we go.
And Prospect also a winner. Prospect took out New Trier. That's a 43-0 final they had in there. So
I said I was looking earlier for St. Viator and Marmion. I just found that final. St. Viator gets to 3-0 with a 34-7 win over Marmion. That's Marmion's first loss of the year. So St. Viator's interesting team. Got their quarterback. Cooper Kmet. You might know that name a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cole Kmet, that guy. You might have a little familiarity with what's going on there. So they're an interesting team, and I think if they end up falling into that 4A playoff field, which is a distinct possibility, they could be really dangerous come playoff team, especially considering they're already out at 3-0. So they just got to pick up 2 more, and maybe in their schedule, maybe they only need 1 more. So that's a really nice start for them.
St. Viator and Hersey both winning tonight. That's a good night for some folks in Arlington Heights, feeling good there. And by the way, Wheeling's win, that snaps a 10-game losing streak. So good for them. How about that? We like seeing that. And speaking of snapping losing streaks, we have to keep an eye on Harvard and Fenton scores. We have those yet. I know they were both finals. I know Harvard lost. I don't know the final of that one off the top of my head. So that was one I wanted to see if we can get a number on. But it's Fenton was the one also. God bless the Bison and Hornets. I tell you what, I love teams that when they snap those losing streaks, how far around the corner can they turn to go up? And so Harvard lost 10-7. It was a tight one against Woodstock tonight. And so, but hey, you know what? That's a competitive game. You love to see that with them. And now they understand that, every game is a possibility for them to win or they be in the mix to compete. So that's something that's always positive. Love seeing that. Let's switch back over to Duquesne Conference because as we started the show about 45 minutes ago, we were hoping to see competitive football in the Duquesne Conference. We didn't quite get that, especially with St. Charles North and Wheaton North. We thought we might see a little bit from Lake Park. That didn't happen. And we thought we would see a good game. We saw a lot of offense. Not sure if we saw a great game. Let's find out for sure. Joel Bennett was there. Geneva and Wheaton South.
All right, I am right outside of Red Grange Field at Wheaton Warrenville South, where Geneva just came into their homecoming celebration and defeated the Tigers 45-31 in an offensive explosion game with over 700 yards of offense. Tony Chihino for Geneva finished the game with over 300 passing yards. Michael Romero had 117 of those, along with 83 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns to kind of lead the way for them. On the other side, Luca Carbonaro and Amari Williams had a great connection. 9 receptions, 125 yards, and 3 touchdowns for Williams in the game. Overall, great introduction to Duquesne Conference play. Lots of offense. Geneva remains 3-0. Wheaton Warrenville South moves to 1-2. And yeah, that's all I have.
And all signs point in that conference, as we thank Joel for that report. Batavia, Geneva, first week of October. Geneva gets, I want to say, Lake Park and then Glenbard North these next 2 weeks. And Glenbard North was having problems with St. Charles East tonight, who hadn't won a game yet at 0-2. So you would imagine that Geneva would be at 5-0, Batavia would be 5-0, and seats would be very difficult to find at Bulldogs Stadium for the Battle of Bulldogs and the Blue Smoke.
Yeah, I would imagine that wouldn't be real easy to navigate if you were just a regular person just trying to get in there. So definitely something to kind of look forward to there. But maybe this week was just a blip, though. Maybe we'll get back to the normal what we'll do in the Duquesne next week. Because I refuse to relent on that, because it's last year there were just far too many of them for me to believe that all of a sudden competitive games are going to disappear in the Duquesne. There were just way too many of them. So it should be fun sifting that out. But definitely it does look like we're heading towards a collision course like that. But, there were some interesting kind of underlying layers there with, Wheaton Warrenville South losing that game tonight. They dropped to 1-2. They've still got some monsters left on their schedule there. For me, when I look down the line, I really think for both of these programs, I think that Wheaton North, Wheaton Warrenville South game is going to be really, really important down the line for both of those teams in regards to making sure that they're in the playoffs. I think this league will probably produce a 4-win qualifier if it comes to that, but you don't want to leave it to that. And I think there's a distinct possibility that game will be the pivot for both of those programs.
And that's where both of those teams are watching what the other schedules are doing in terms of non-conference. And we'll probably highlight those from weeks going onward to figure out what happens to Lions in terms of Wheaton South schedule, what happens to Providence for Wheaton North, and so on and so forth. Just had a score on the south side at 56 and Dante, and Mount Carmel now with a 42-33 lead. They're in the final minute of the third quarter. They're still in the third quarter at 10:20.
Are they going to get that done before we're done, Matt?
I don't know if they will. You know what? Part of me says we should just stay on to get a final. It probably times out pretty close at this point. I'm looking at just the broadcast and looking at the telecast to see. I've never been there, but I still am always amazed at how close the stands are to the field, the way they built that. How old is that stadium? It couldn't be 10 years old at this point, right?
It's not. It's like 5 at the most.
Yeah.
It's not very old, because I remember prior to when I went this year, all of my Mount Carmel experience was either on the road or at Gately Stadium.
Gately, yep.
And it was not. It couldn't have been more than 5 years. I'd be surprised to learn that it was, because I remember Gately games as recently as no more than 5 to 7 years. That's for sure.
Glenbard East, a final over Bartlett. That was 47-14, the final in that one. So Glenbard East, one of those teams in the Upstate 8 that should be towards the top. We don't know how good they really are. They had a nice run last year in the postseason. We tend to forget that. They had a nice run. However, we don't know how strong that league is. So just be curious to see if it's going to be the usual suspects up top and where they get seeded, especially for a team like Glenbard East is if they can get a friendly bracket, maybe they can win a game or two and figure out where they're going to go from there.
Did you see that Fremd Vikings score tonight, Matt?
I have not. Hold that thought. Let's see if we can talk about that in a second. First, I want to hear from what happened down at Muhammad Seymour, Sycamore Spartans. Eddie Carifio was there.
Okay, we're outside the sports writer's most important tool in the toolbox. I don't think I can say legally where I am, but at least not without some sponsorship money. Sycamore 21, Muhammad Seymour 13. A really good game. Another game that comes down to the fourth quarter. No comeback needed for Sycamore this time. However, they had to hold off the Bulldogs. Fortunately, they get a Thatcher Friedrichs punt down at the 2-yard line. That sets Muhammad Seymour up, needing to go about 98 yards in 5 minutes. Normally, they are the quick strike offense, but the quarterback, number one Trey, never came back, or the wide receiver never came back. They had to run the ball a lot more. They did have a lot of sustained drives, but they just couldn't get that last one going. They fail on a fourth down conversion. Sycamore takes over and runs the clock out. Special teams name of the game, again, the down punt on the 2-yard line, and Aiden Wizard with an 89-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. So Sycamore 21, Muhammad Seymour 13. Sycamore goes to 3-0 on the year. All their games, 1-score victories. This is the first one. Again, they didn't have to come from behind in the fourth quarter. Yeah, there you go. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Eddie. I always wonder, where is he? Does he need to have a special place, like a special hiding place to do his things or what have you?
I generally make it a practice to not ask where Eddie is. I'm a little scared of the answer in most situations.
Can we also just let's address the elephant in the room? That beard is special, isn't it? It's just a special beard. That's really what it is. And you know, Sycamore needed that point. And if you're Canelan, you are happy Sycamore won, because Morris did not. They had the ball and lost 50-45. Peoria got an interception late to seal it, and that's it. So Peoria gets a big road win at Morris tonight, and that's a playoff point switcheroo. So keep that in mind as we see Rochelle, Sycamore, Canelan, Morris, and there's that rivalry game tonight. Those four are just going to be – that's going to be a mess of a league more than anything, because those are four really good teams, and everyone needed to do some serious damage in the non-conference play to help each other out in case it goes sideways in terms of 5-4, 6-3, seeding-wise. That changes things too, especially in that 5A, 6A level. You could see 6A – you could see 6-3 teams with home games if you have enough points to get on that top line. And that's why these things matter when it comes to November.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I think we're definitely going to get a more than a handful of 6-3 teams that are hosting games this year. I just think that's the way this is going to go. I think you're going to have your normal number of 9-0s, but then I think there's going to be a cluster of teams at 2 and 3 losses when that cluster is usually 1s and 2s. I'm not saying we're going to totally lose the 1-loss teams. I just think there might be a few less than we usually have. I think we'll have more 2, 3, 4-loss teams in those draws, and maybe less of the spotless and close to spotless records this year. That's just a sense that I have at this point in time.
St. Charles East 40-7 over Glenbard North on their homecoming game on the east side of St. Charles, and it was a good, comfortable win. It wasn't late, I'll tell you that. I was keeping an eye on that earlier. Barrington put 51 on the board on Glenbrook South, 51-21. The final there. What do you make of the Broncos at this point? They're just rolling along.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like they're in a really, really good place right now, and then of course I go and say that, and then who's on the schedule next week for Barrington, right?
I forget off the top of my head. Remind me.
It's Maine South.
Oh yeah, that.
So who knows what's going to happen? I mean, it might start. It might turn in a soccer score of some kind. Who knows? I mean, when those teams are involved, you never know what you're going to get. But once again, it's an opportunity there for Barrington to make a statement here early in the season. I think they're in good shape. But like we've talked about a lot before, the mid-sub is deeper than it's ever been. So they have to stay on their game regardless of what happens in week 4, because unlike in past seasons, I think there's going to be some slings and arrows shot in their general direction this time. And maybe in past years, there haven't been that many teams that have been able to take a real good swing at them. And I think that might be different this year.
I'm going to run through some scores from around the state, because we tend to focus on the Chicagoland suburbs, and that's good. And jump in if you see anything that could indicate a change or something that we should probably make note of. Let's start with Moline, a win over Geneseo tonight, 51-21. That's the final there. Quincy, a 48-7 win over Rock Island. Morrison getting a win over Galesburg, 31-14. We talked about the Marengo Woodstock North game earlier. Boylan, a win over Rockford Jefferson. The Jayhawks go down. That's a 20-14 final, though. Boylan has to eke by Jefferson. That's a surprise in itself. Hononegah, 38-14 over Harlem. Moments, a winner over Westville, 15-14. What do you make of Moments? And you've been down there. You've covered that area for a long time.
I was before technical difficulties got me earlier this evening. I was actually going to sneak out there and try to watch a half of that game. Moments was state ranked in the first AP poll. I believe tied for third in 2A. Wanted to get a look at them. They had a good year last year. It's a program that has had some success in the past, but had kind of fallen off a little bit. And It seems like they're climbing back up that mountain a little bit. So it's an interesting team. Wanted to go out there. I mean, I'm 15 minutes from there right now. I've been around this area my entire life. They put in new field turf. So I had
Did
somebody.
They really? Ooh.
Yeah, I had somebody from Moments invite me out there. Say, come out if you can see it. It looks real good. So hopefully I'll get a chance to take a good look at Moments before the season's over.
I've been to a Clifton Central game. I've never been to a Moments game. How are those two when they play each other? What's that like?
All I know for sure that's one of the things that they play for a rivalry trophy. I wish I had a picture of it, and I don't. I used to. It's called the Tomahawk, and I can't. I get it. I can't even do it description well, but let's just say that it looks like it was made very lovingly in a shop class somewhere, and leave it at that. But I love that trophy. I'm not disparaging it. Let's be clear before the criticisms come in of me assessing it that way. It is a glorious and beautiful title to be held.
Bless your heart, Steve Soucie. Bless your heart. And you know what? We need CTE programs, pathways all the way. Get better at that, will you? That's part of it. Couple 70 burgers to report. Minooka dropped 70 on Joliet Central tonight, 70-12, and Cahokia over Granite City in a shutout, 76-0.
Yep.
That's a tough night. And remember, that's a running clock at 40. So
yeah.
In the second half. So if you don't stop it in the first half, it gets really bad. First and foremost. And Farmington over St. Teresa, 42-18. St. Teresa got a couple of votes. They've slipped back from their state championships team a couple years ago, so I was curious to see where they'd fall. Elmwood Brimfield, another 70-point performance, 70-36 over West Hancock. And other scores coming in. Prairie Ridge, 41-20 over Hampshire. I think what's notable in that one is Hampshire continues to play competitive football a little bit. That's not a 41-0 game. That's a 41-20 game. That's interesting from the Whipper standpoint.
Yeah, that's a good step for them. That's a game that in the past, so usually verged on or was a running clock game. So, but I'm real interested in Prairie Ridge as we move forward. It feels like nobody's talking about them, and all they're doing is they just keep winning. So it's like moving forward, new head coach. What were they going to be able to do? And it looks like they've just really kind of sustained what Prairie Ridge football is, and now they are, in my opinion, based on the enrollment shifts that have been going on in that area, they're a 5A team. I don't think we're going to see Prairie Ridge back in the 6A field.
No, I don't.
Soon. I think that is a 5A program now. So, it just kind of changes the landscape of things. Obviously, that didn't work out very well for them last year because of a bracketing quirk that had them playing Nazareth in the first round of the playoffs. But moving forward, you would think 5A, if we get the right draw, maybe we can make some noise.
Warren got on the board. We'll tell you the final of that one. It's getting close to the end of that one. Also, Mount Carmel and Nazareth, they are in the fourth quarter. Will they beat us to the end of the finish line at 11 o'clock? And after the break, we're also going to listen in on what happened with Joliet West and Yorkville. Curious to see what's going on with the Foxes as they try and turn the corner here off an start to their season. This is week 3 of Friday Night Drive. We'll be right back.
Hey, football fans, listen up. I'm Top there, and I drive a Hawk. I got it from my friends at Hawk Volkswagen. So drive what I drive. Drive a Hawk. Hawk Volkswagen on Jefferson Street in Joliet or online at hawkvw.com.
Do you ever wonder where the profits go when you shop at a big box store? Hi, this is Patty from Oliver's Corner Market. When you shop at Oliver's, you can rest assured that the profits stay local, supporting other local businesses and charities. Find us at the corner of Britton and Bradshaw in Dixon.
I like Reich.
I like Reich.
Since 2016, it's been my privilege to represent the people of the 63rd District. I want to continue representing you as an independent voice in Springfield.
I like Reich. We like Reich.
We're here to help you with your problems that result from an automobile accident or an injury on the job or the loss of a loved one. There's no reason you should go through this alone and guess that you're doing things right.
We deal with tragedies that affect families and individuals every day.
Come here and protect your interests. We've been doing this collectively for over 100 years. Let's put that experience to work for you.
All right, welcome back. Our final scheduled half hour because we don't know where this goes after 11 o'clock. Matt Rodewald, Steve Soucie with you here. We got a bunch of scores coming in here. Before we get to Yorkville and Joliet West, Pekin, a surprise over, I would say surprise because of how tight it was. It's a wild one. 34-33, the final over Dunlop tonight. So that's some Central Illinois stuff. Keep an eye on Central Illinois with Peoria getting a win up in Morris. That's a big win for the Central Illinois as well. What's standing out to you right now, other than the fact that Lake Forest is about to get a win here? 38-7 now, the final. They're in the final 2 minutes of that one up in Lake Forest.
Well, I mean, we're going to get to Yorkville and Joliet West in a minute here. But the one thing that I was kind of looking at tonight was this is a situation where the Southwest Prairie is crossing over. Last year, we had some of the teams from the East Division, which historically has not beaten the West Division very often, pick up some wins. Well, tonight that didn't happen. Nope. So it looks like we're trending back towards where the West is dominating, because I believe the West Division teams all won in their crossover games against the East tonight, if I have all my scores right, and a lot of them were lopsided. So it looks like that trend is snapping back into focus. But that was something that I was keeping an eye on, because Joliet West made some waves last year, picking up some of those crossover victories. I was interested to see if they'd be able to do that again. It looks like they fell tonight. I believe they have Plainfield North next week, who knocked Plainfield South from the ranks of the undefeated tonight with a 33-12 win.
Yorkville tonight and Joliet West. Hart Pisani has a recap for us.
Hart Pisani out here. Final from Joliet West is 31 for Yorkville, 8 for Joliet West. It was a defensive battle the first quarter and a half, scoreless before special teams points pick up for Yorkville on a blocked punt, recovered for a touchdown. Dylan Malone, Northern Illinois commitment, 2 touchdowns on 4 catches. Joliet West gets on the board in the third quarter but can't keep the momentum going. They'll play Plainfield North next week at Plainfield North. Yorkville will be at Plainfield South. That's it for tonight. Happy Friday, everyone.
All right, we thank Hart for that. And, what do you make of the Foxes right now? It was a struggle bus a little bit offensively for them these last 3 weeks, really. It's been all 3 weeks hard to get going for Dan McGuire and company on the offensive side.
Well, and that was something that was a concern in the offseason, whether or not they'd be able to get that going, and it has really been a struggle. We were talking a little bit before about games that were extremely pivotal for them, for teams in terms of looking forward. I felt like that was one that Yorkville really needed to have, because obviously got one more week of crossover here, a game that they can probably win next week to get them back to the 500 mark. Then they go into divisional play, and that's brutal. I mean, that's just every week there's a good quality team coming at you, 5 straight weeks of that. So, I mean, it was real important that they get this one, so they weren't staring at potentially being 1-3 out of the crossover games, or maybe even 0-4. But I mean, they really needed this one. So for them, this is a building block win. It's like let's see if we can get another one next week, and then we'll worry about divisional play. But it's a heck of a lot easier to look into that divisional play at 2-2, potentially 2-2, than
Right.
1-3 or 0-4.
And they're in the mix in that 4-5 range where they're going to need some point magic from New Trier and from the other crossover teams to really help them out. Not sure if they can get it. Hart also had a chance to talk with Dylan Malone, as you mentioned. Here's this conversation.
So I know defensive battle early on, but y'all get things rolling on offense and carry it forward. How's it feeling right now?
Yeah, it feels great. The last few weeks, it's been hard to get it going, but at practice we executed. Had a good practice, had a good week, and we brought it, translated to the game. And we showed what we can do, and we're going to work for it and keep on going.
I know we're only 3 weeks in, but man, that one-handed catch you had was got to be up there for one of the better ones of the year. I mean, what's going through your mind as you're rolling through the end zone?
I seen the quarterback rolling out. I knew he was coming to me. He was a little far outside. Stuck it out. I'll make those grabs. Quarterback, has trust in me. So that's what that connection between us is pretty special. But honestly, I was feeling that I was confident. That's nothing. I can easily make those catches.
For me, I'm a little partial with Yorkville. I've been around Dylan Malone quite a bit. He's a well-spoken kid. He's a smart guy, a bright guy. He's going to do some great things at the next level there. But he's just a really good athlete. And so when you have good athletes, you just got to figure out how to get the ball to him. And finally, Yorkville was able to do that tonight.
Yeah, and having somebody like that is obviously a big benefit for them if they can find ways to use them, because even with the struggles that they have, the defense has been pretty consistent. They have not been giving up a lot of points. So it's not like they're asking the offense to put up 30, 35 points a night. I think this is a kind of football team that can be competitive if you can just punch in a couple of touchdowns. I think that will give you an opportunity with that defense to win a fair amount of football games. It's just a matter of being able to just get a few of them rather than getting, shut out or limited to, 3 points or 7 points or something like that. That puts too much of a burden on your defense. But overall, I think that's an indication this is the kind of team that I think as the weather cools off and you start to get into those rigorous league games, maybe that defense will carry them on some nights and their offense will do just enough to get them by.
Mount Carmel and Nazareth in a shootout. They're running out of possessions there in that one. It's 6 minutes left in that one, and 49-33. Mount Carmel with the lead and the ball right now inside the 25-yard line as they continue to drive on Nazareth. They're now inside the red zone. It's just gone final in Lake Forest. It's 38-7 the final. The Warren Blue Devils go down, and that was a very late touchdown they got with about 3 minutes left. Otherwise, this was looking at shutout territory. Lake Forest is pretty good, and Libertyville is pretty good, and that's the game I'm circling on the North Suburban Lake County calendar for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't have bet on that at the beginning of the year. I liked both of those teams coming into the season, but to say that could potentially decide the conference championship, I would have been like, no, what are we talking about here? Hold on a minute. But no, it's definitely looks like those two teams are starting to separate themselves, to be completely honest, from the rest of the pack.
We had mentioned at the start of the show, Lena Winslow kind of struggled a little bit, but got a win. And that was a final of 30-14. I just saw that Duran Pecatonica score, 46-0 over Dakota. I'll ask you a hypothetical. Lena slipped back a little bit. You think maybe just a tad bit, and not a lot, because they're a very talented football team. Is this a year where Duran Pecatonica and that co-op can finally put a game together to maybe knock out Lena in one game? Actually, a conference team that could beat them in the regular season? Is that possible?
I'll be interested to see that game. I wouldn't favor them to do that, but I can see the situation where how that could happen. I think one of the things you can there, I think that final from tonight, I think Dakota's taken a pretty significant step back. So I'm not sure how good of a win that is for them tonight. It's a W. Take them any way you can get them, especially in that conference. Yeah. But moving forward, I still think Lena Winslow's the top dog there, obviously, but maybe I won't dismiss it as a possibility.
Hoffman Estates 57-0 over Maine East. We've talked about every team in that conference, and that was nice to see for the Hawks to get a shutout win in that kind of fashion. We haven't had a Schaumburg score, have we not? They are playing tonight. I haven't seen one yet.
Yeah.
We'll keep an eye on that one. Now's West 20-0 over Elk Grove. That's a final there. We mentioned Carmel over Providence, 27-24. Willowbrook over Addison Trail. That one was a 39-28 win for Willowbrook. Some of the other scores we're seeing it. What else are you watching other than I'm still staring at Mount Carmel right now to see if they can put across the 50 mark. They did. They just did with a wide open touchdown from Jack Elliott and they're clearly a blown coverage right up the seam there. So that's about to go 56-33. They still have a good 5.5 minutes left in that one, and it's 10:41 p.m. No one knows how to have a good late night good time like the Catholic League on a Friday night. I tell you what.
Yeah, that's going back to week 1. That Mount Carmel game against the Hun School felt like it took 4 hours. I wonder what the feeling is
on a Thursday
in regards to that too. Both of those programs right now, I think, still moving forward, have some defensive issues they're going to need to resolve. I mean, in the Hun School game, there were some broken coverages for Mount Carmel. Obviously tonight, I mean, not that Nazareth doesn't have some components that can score. Logan Malachuk is a very talented quarterback. I'm sure he's made some throws tonight too. But, like both of these two teams have got to get better defensive effort if they want to achieve the goals that they, if they want to defend. Both of them are defending state champions. So that kind of defensive performance on both sides probably isn't going to hold water in November.
I think it's important. I'm looking at Southern Illinois scores right now, and I'm seeing like rain and weather. And I tend to forget there was a hurricane that went through, Louisiana. It started pushing its way up there. So they're dealing with some rain down there. Marion over Mount Vernon, by the way, 37-34. That is a final. Some of the other games to keep an eye on. Collinsville and Carbondale don't have a final in that one yet, or I couldn't find one here. Murfreesboro over Benton. That's way down south, by the way, 28-20.
That's a nice win for Murfreesboro.
Yes, it is. I would agree. I
watched that Benton team.
Yeah, I had that circled on my calendar. Like that, keep an eye on that one. Nashville, another win tonight over Westland and the Warriors, 42-0. So we'll be curious to see what goes on in Southern Illinois these next few weeks. But I'm looking at reporters that were like that they got the whole. They're out there getting their news stories, but they got the trash bag over the camera and the poncho on. It's classic. Hurricane finds its way to the Midwest in September, and it's just miserable. And it's not storming; it's just constant rain. And those are the worst ones, I would say. If you have a storm blow through where you're doing the 30-minute dance of lightning, that's one thing. But when you're just getting pounded by rain, it's no fun for anybody.
Absolutely. But,
so,
that's part of the adventure, too, sometimes.
Yeah. What's the worst rain game you've ever covered? Do you remember?
I covered a playoff game between Providence and Kankakee once that it was so bad weather-wise that I could not see. If I put my hand in front of my face here, my fingers were questionable. So between the rain, slushy type snow and everything, and I remember I was with another reporter who was driving that night, and we did 2 literal donuts driving home back to when I was working in Kankakee on Route 113 coming home. There was
dangerous.
That's how bad it was. So yeah.
Drive safe, everyone. 56-33 Mount Carmel. That's coming up at the 4-minute mark. Nazareth football, but they're going to need to do a lot of work. So if this one shakes out the way it looks like right now, Mount Carmel getting the win. That offense, it's fine, but that defense, it's giving up 33 points and it's going back and forth there. They got a little work to do.
Yeah, they do, and that's going to be something that I guess it's going to be a work in progress all year long. I mean, they lost a lot to graduation, particularly in the secondary. So some guys learning on the job, and when that happens, sometimes you make some mistakes that right now the offense is doing a really nice job of patching over for them. But like I said, when we get further into the year and the opponents get stronger, if some of those things haven't been rectified, some of these 7A offenses will take advantage of the mistakes that are being made right now if they're still there.
And I was looking at your projections, and I believe in 7A I was doing the theoretical dance and Mount Carmel Batavia quarterfinal potential, and you would think that would be at Batavia based on. And again, this is week 3, but a Mount Carmel offense that doesn't have the kind of defense in the past on the road in that building with that kind of hostility over the last few years will not be pleasant if that's the case. So that's just something to keep in mind. Yeah, exactly. Southern Illinois scores. I got more of them for you. KC Westfield beats Newton 46-3. Only over Lawrenceville 49-7. Paris over Marshall 35-20. Sullivan 42 over Cumberland. And so those are still kind of bouncing around here as we continue to look and see scores that come in. West Aurora shutout of Elgin. It's the struggle bus for the U46 schools, 56-0. West Aurora gets a big win they needed. How about this one that just crossed? Rolling Meadows, 42-34 over Glenbrook North tonight.
Oh, they rallied in that one. They were down early in that game. So, but yeah, so that's, I was wondering if they were going to get the, we've got the NFL guy on this bump that sometimes these programs seem to get when they go through that. But so far, so good for them, even though they took that loss to Pekin early in the year. Pekin's showing that they're a pretty good football team. I mean, that win over Dunlap tonight.
Yeah.
No joke. Dunlap's a good team.
That's a good team.
So that's one of those situations where I think Dunlap's definitely a playoff caliber team. I'm pretty sure Pekin is now, especially after getting that win. So, that was no joke. When I saw that final, I was like, well, that's a really nice win for Pekin. So, and once again, we talked about how this was blown up before. I mean, Rolling Meadows competed with Pekin, so that's a good sign for them via the transitive property, but the transitive property doesn't exist. So, yeah.
It's Common Core now. They don't use it nearly as much. No, I'm kidding. Palatine 25-19 over Evanston. Palatine, the team that we haven't talked about in that league. And had they lost tonight, then they would have slipped deeper and deeper into the drifts of us not talking about them. But they're a team that could do some damage. You had teased also the Frem score. What did you have for me on that one?
65-7 victory tonight over Highland Park.
Wow.
So they're 3-0.
Fine. Yes.
So I'll tell you about another thing that I just found, that Sandburg Homewood game that I was telling you about. It slowed down a little bit. Final score 63-34 in favor of Sandburg.
63-34. I think I covered one game with Marian Catholic and Carmel, and this has to be 20 years ago. And I think it was like 68-61. And at that time, 20 years ago, it was like no one did that. So it was nuts. And I had a notepad with me, just like one I have here tonight, writing stuff down. I had flipped pages over and lost pages. Like I tore one off on accident. It blew away in the wind. And I remember that game particularly just because they kept returning kickoffs back on each other. I think we had 3 in a row where it was just like one, and then the other team ran it back. And the next one, they ran it too. And I would tell you that was a late night. And for where I live, that's a long drive from Chicago Heights out to the western suburbs.
Couple of random finals that I just popped in here.
We love random finals.
Washington beats Metamora 37-7 tonight to Todd Stevens, his first win as Washington head coach, and that's an impressive margin there for them. And a small school final of note: Chicago Hope picks up a 22-9 win over Aurora Christian tonight. So after an 0-2 start for the Eagles, where they lost to Wilmington and Simeon to start the season, the 1A Hope Eagles are on the board with a victory.
I had wondered if Hope would win that game. I thought they might, but I'm going to go back to Metamora, Washington. That's a rivalry game. Those two are maybe 5 minutes apart. That's not very far. And, so that atmosphere down there had to be quite entertaining for sure. What do you make of Metamora taking a loss in that one there?
Yeah. I'm thinking that I got to kind of like reassess that one, especially the margin, because early in the year I was thinking, well, maybe Metamora is at the top of that conference. Well, obviously they're not. I mean, after they were beaten pretty badly by them. So it's now I'm starting to wonder if they're even a playoff team, because that's not to decry the fact that I thought Washington had fallen completely off the cliff, but they were 0-2 coming into this game. So it was definitely a game that I thought Metamora would probably win. And obviously I was way off base on that one.
It could tell you what, in terms of how good Kankakee and Canelan are, and just in that sense. So, and we talked about the Interstate 8 ad nauseum for sure. So SJL gets a win tonight, not a field goal this time. It was a 49-20 win over Prairie Central. I don't know if that was up at Fairbury or not. Scrolling around. Hey, the Thornton Fractional Battle is final. North beats South, 24-14 in that one. Gibson City, Melvin Sibley. I got to say all 3 names contractually. They beat Fisher and the Bunnies 37-8. Love the scores, and we ought to make the segment random scores. Just at this time of just wherever you are on the state. Hey, Charleston got a win over Jersey tonight, 45-34 in that one. My pairings notes disappear on me immediately after I do that show, just like it probably does for you. Charleston made the playoffs for the first time in quite a while. Did I get that right for this past year? Yeah.
Yes.
So it's nice to see them continue to win for sure.
And they're now the only team in the Apollo Conference that doesn't have a loss. So that's another one of those situations. If you would have said before the season, one team will have no losses after 3 weeks in the Apollo, and I probably would have guessed 5 teams before I would have gotten to Charleston. So good for them.
And Lockport smacked around Neuqua Valley 41-14 tonight. Your thoughts on Lockport?
Lockport is a whisper away from being 3-0. I mean, all they needed to do was get a 4th down stop against Wheaton North, and they'd be 3-0. And this was a team before the season that I thought had just lost too much, to graduation, didn't know really what they had. And the fact that they've started the way that they have and are really that close to being a 3-0 football team, really big surprise to me. And I always think good things about Lockport. Veteran coach George Chart just seems to find a way to get it done. He's certainly found whatever recipe he needs so far in the early going. But like every other team in the Southwest Valley, look at what's remaining on their schedule. Even though they're 2-1 right now, a lot of obstacles to clear just to get themselves to playoff qualification.
In the Fox Valley Conference, it's Cary Grove, it's Prairie Ridge. We haven't talked enough about Prairie Ridge. And then it's everybody else. And it's going to get even worse with that because Jacobs beat Huntley tonight, 26-15. I have no idea how to make of Jacobs here because they've been kind of all over the place. That's a tough loss for Huntley. They needed that win tonight.
It was a weird game. They had a power failure that slowed.
They did. They had a weird light issue, yeah.
So it just was one of those games that I kept trying to see what was going on with it, and the game didn't seem to move at all. But, Huntley at one point led 15-12, and then Jacobs got the last 2 touchdowns of the game to put that one away. So, I was wondering kind of how to stack this conference and still kind of am wondering how to do it, but clearly Jacobs is kind of trying to elbow their way up into that upper tier where they've been, maybe in that a playoff team, but in that B tier for the last couple of seasons. So that's a good win for them and puts them in pretty good shape. Jacobs obviously has the road trip to Cary Grove next week, which is always the highlight for everyone on the Fox Valley schedule. So, but that's a good way to go into it with a win over Huntley, and a little momentum at your back.
And Cary Grove at 3-0 in the year, and they haven't been challenged yet in their season. And I would imagine that they may not be seriously challenged, but maybe Jacobs can make it at least a 2.5 quarter game to start. And then once you get in the second half, all bets are off against a team like Cary Grove. You just never know if you're in the game there for sure. St. Ignatius 31-14 over IC Catholic tonight. St. Ignatius, they're in the blue, but they haven't been talked about, and I don't know what to make of the Wolfpack yet.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, last week they lost to Fenwick. They beat a St. Louis University team that is fairly decent in week 1, but it's always hard to get a read on, how good a team in Missouri is and how that factors into. So I still don't know either, to be completely honest with you. But obviously, in a good space to be 2-1 here. Looking at it on paper before the season, I didn't honestly think that they would be 2-1 at this stage. So they haven't played a blue game yet. Obviously, all 3 of those games are going to be a huge challenge. But being 2-1 at this point gives them an opportunity that where if they can get one of these, and then maybe and do well in their crossovers, they'll have a pretty good chance and a strength of schedule that gives them options. That last year they were in the 8A playoffs and were down seed-wise because of the Catholic League schedule, but got made a little bit of a run in the 8A field, so beat Joliet West in the opening round. But that's for them. That's what they're trying to do. They're just trying to get themselves in position. The blue is a huge challenge for them. It's a huge step up and ask for them.
It's a huge ask. Yeah.
Yeah, but
they go from 5A to 8A. It was one thing too, and then to go ahead and jump in the blue while you're at it and say,
yep.
We're going to guarantee that these Loyola, Mount Carmel, and Brother Rice games absolutely mean everything.
Yeah. So no, it should be interesting to watch what goes on with them, and it was before, it still is. Obviously, the crossovers are very important for them.
I am looking at stuff from Central Illinois with some random more scores for you here. We got a couple minutes. We got maybe 2 minutes left here. We've got SHG is back, 35-10 over Jacksonville tonight. Looking down in Central Illinois. See if I can just see some. Bloomington Central Catholic went down to PBL. Paxton Buckley loaded 22-21, the final in that one. Dancing around here just to see. We mentioned Sycamore, Peoria Notre Dame over Champaign Central, big 54-15. Normal Community got back to work at 56-0. Salt Fork over Iroquois West, 45-13. Arcola beat Argenta Oriana, 33-14. The Southern Illinois looks good, or Central Illinois scores look pretty much the standard. No real surprises, I would say, as we look at it. Unity, a 48-6 win over IBC. Not sure if they went out to go over Chillicothe or not. Oh, and that game, SJO that I mentioned, that was in Fairbury. So I was able to get that answer. I don't know why we needed it, but we didn't. Now we know. So there we are. You know what? It's been fun. Final word as we sign off here for me and you. And I believe, I don't know if Mount Carmel finished or not, but they were up big, 56-33. It seems like they're close to finishing up there. But what's your big takeaway tonight? If you had one big takeaway at this point.
There was a lot of intriguing stuff in the Catholic League tonight, and I thought that there would be. Obviously, that St. Francis win is a big one. I can't recall the last time Loyola found itself at 1-2 in this situation, and has not played a conference game yet. That's the other thing on top of it that I find really interesting, is that they still haven't even played any of the league games that, in that situation. So digging themselves a hole. That the St. Rita win over Brother Rice was another thing that was really, really intriguing to me as well. Didn't expect that. So a nice win for the Mustangs there. But just that league continues to be a source of a lot of interesting games on a week-to-week basis. And week 3 didn't disappoint in that grounds.
Want to thank all of our reporters for helping us out. We want to thank everybody behind the scenes as well. And want to thank you, Mr. Soucie, for putting up with me for the last 90 minutes. You get it all by yourself from now on. So, and to everyone who sent in scores, thank you so much. Tell your friends. Make sure you're watching us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. And make sure that you're sending us along storylines. You might see stuff before we do. You never know. You might get a mention on that as well. And again, it was a Mount Carmel final, 56-33. So they just wrapped up right before we did. For Steve Soucie and everybody else, I'm Matt Rodewald. Highlights, real quick as we close it out. Recap of week 3 on Friday Night Drive.
Return is second down.
A 3rd-and-1 play, second quarter at the Sycamore 23. Misdirection. And that is Burke Goucher fighting for the yardage.
Take it.
We're here to help you with your problems that result from an automobile accident or an injury on the job or the loss of a loved one. There's no reason you should go through this alone and guess that you're doing things right.
We deal with tragedies that affect families and individuals every day.
Come here and protect your interests. We've been doing this collectively for over 100 years. Let's put that experience to work for you.
Hey, football fans, listen up. I'm top there, and I drive a Hawk. I got it from my friends at Hawk Volkswagen. So drive what I drive. Drive a Hawk. Hawk Volkswagen on Jefferson Street in Joliet or online at hawkvw.com.
I like Reich.
I like Reich.
Since 2016, it's been my privilege to represent the people of the 63rd District. I want to continue representing you as an independent voice in Springfield.
I like Reich. We like Reich.
Do you ever wonder where the profits go when you shop at a big box store? Hi, this is Patty from Oliver's Corner Market. When you shop at Oliver's, you can rest assured that the profits stay local, supporting other local businesses and charities. Find us at the corner of Britton and Bradshaw in Dixon.
Hi guys, back for some more score going through here this evening. Already got quite a few finals actually put in while we were at commercial or some other stuff. So far so good. I'm already down about 5 conferences into the files. So I'm not missing any scores so far. So that's good. All right, so now as soon as I say that, I'm sure I'll find one that I don't have, but moving right along. A lot of scores coming in tonight. Some interesting ones. I'll try to break them down as we go, what I'm seeing. That's an interesting one. In the Black Diamond Conference tonight, Sesser with an 8-6 win over Fairfield. So that's one that I thought would be a good game. Turned out it was. Johnston City with a win tonight. What I'm seeing so far, just from the finals that have come in, is that we're going to have a lot of 3-0 teams, I think more than usual after we get through the first 3 weeks. It's just a situation where I think we're going to have a lot of 3-0 teams to break through, and maybe even next weekend and get it to 4-0 teams. And then there's going to be a smaller group of 1-loss teams. I think we're going to start to see that gap kind of define itself this year. I don't know if that's because of the way that the schedule was drawn out. It's just definitely a I'm noticing so far. It looks like we're going to have some things going on. Okay. All right. It looks like I've got my first missing score for the evening. I'm looking for Hamilton County and Christopher. I'm not 100% sure that game was played tonight, but that is the one that I'm missing. Hamilton County and Christopher. So I know that one was in. I saw that one. I thought I saw the Carlisle scored earlier. Pretty positive I did. There it is. No, it isn't. I lied. I'm on the wrong conference. That would be why I can't find it. Okay. Yep, I thought that was. Carlisle gets beat by the team out of Missouri. And so far, like I said, the only score that I'm missing is Christopher and Hamilton County. I think I might try to get to that Kankakee Normal game. Is that at Kankakee? Do you know, Alex? I haven't looked at the schedule. I sure hope that it is, because that would definitely be something I'd be interested in seeing. Okay, so I just found the Dupo-Madison score. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Paul. Yeah, I think I might try to catch at least a half of that one before coming back for the show. That should be good. Looking forward to that one. Yeah, like I said, we're moving down the list pretty quickly tonight. I got a lot of scores in early this evening. There were a lot of early finals that I was able to get in. So for the most part, I don't expect to be chasing too many scores tonight. All right, so, and then of course, as soon as I say that, I start finding scores that I'm missing. So next up on the I'm Missing It trail, I'm going to check one more place. Nope, I found it. Thought I was looking for Sparta and A&M, but there it is. Okay. All right, so then I want to say I'm probably about 20% done with the scores from tonight. That number might be actually a little bit higher. But I'm already moving in towards the public league, and I think I have all those scores, so that's not going to take any time tonight. So right now, the only score that I'm missing is Hamilton County and Christopher. So okay. There's the Roxana score. Okay. All right, so it looks like another one that I'm missing right now is Wood River and Alton Marquette. So that is That makes 2. Hamilton County and Christopher. Alton Marquette and Wood River. Okay. So, got to open up one of my other scoreboards here. Okay, so, like I said, still missing 2 scores from tonight so far. Still don't think I'm going to be missing a lot when it comes right down to it. Okay. So, let's go down here and see what we can find out. All right, so now I'm moving into the Chicago Catholic League. I got a fair amount of those earlier, so it shouldn't take too long to get through these. Nice win for St. Ignatius tonight, beating IC Catholic. Puts them in pretty good shape. Both of those teams are 2-1 now. $56-33 tonight for Mount Carmel. So that gets Mount Carmel back above the 500 mark. They're 2-1. St. Ignatius beating IC Catholic. Opened that one up at the end. That was 18-14 at the end of 3 quarters. Ended up being 31-14 in favor of St. Ignatius. Okay. Marist and Montini. I saw that one earlier, but I cannot remember the final. 21-6. So Marist goes to 3-0 on the season. That's Montini's first loss. They're 2-1 now. All right. So St. Lawrence beats Notre Dame. St. Lawrence 3-0. To try to get themselves back to a state championship game after losing in the 4A finals to Rochester last year. Niles Notre Dame drops to 2-1. St. Viator ran away from Marmion. They're 3-0 on the season. Nice win for them tonight over previously undefeated Marmion. St. Patrick with a win over Leo. 6-17. And Bennett beat De La Salle. So let's take a real quick look here while I'm here. Paul beats Marian Catholic, so they're 3-0. Like I mentioned during the broadcast, that's the first time I can remember that program being 3-0 for a long time. Okay, so I just put all the Catholic League scores in, so just out of curiosity, I'm going to count here. I think I know the right answer to this, but Yep, the Catholic League now has just 6 undefeated schools in the through 3 weeks of play at this point in time. St. Lawrence, Bennett, DePaul, St. Viator, Marist, and St. Francis. They also, I believe, have just one winless team. So a lot of spreading around the wealth in that conference at this point in time. Okay. On to the Central State 8. Had a couple of these earlier. Okay, looking for a Rochester-Lincoln score. Have not seen that one tonight. Thanks for the Wood River score, Weather. Appreciate it. So now we're at Hamilton County and Christopher, Rochester and Lincoln. Those are the 2 scores that I'm missing. Thank you, guys. 63-7 for Rochester. Wood River wins 24-7. Alton Marquette. 7-24. Okay. So now, go back and punch that Rochester score in real quick. 63-7. Okay. Now we're moving to the other side. I know Springfield Sacred Heart Griffin won tonight over Jacksonville, but I don't remember the score. That was 35-10. Okay. So now, appears that I'm looking for a Quincy Notre Dame score from tonight. Quincy Notre Dame and Springfield Southeast. Okay. So Maine West and Conant. All right. Okay, and now I'm looking for, looks like Maine West and Conant too. Yep. So 3 scores I'm missing: Hamilton County and Christopher, Quincy Notre Dame, Springfield Southeast, Maine West, and Conant. Schaumburg wins again. 3-0 Schaumburg. 49-21 over Niles North. Niles West beats Elk Grove. Vernon Hills loses to Wheeling. 7-27. Okay. Moving along pretty good here. Deerfield beats Buffalo Grove. Palatine beats Evanston. Barrington wins comfortably. Glenbrook North. New Trier loses to Prospect. So all those crossovers are done now. 3 scores looking for Hamilton County, Christopher, Quincy, Notre Dame, Springfield Southeast, Maine West, and Conant. Okay. Should cross off these crossovers here while I have a chance. Let's see. That's one. 2 Prospect wins 43-0. Rolling Meadows wins 42-34. Wheeling wins. I do, Weather. I really like what Dixon's doing so far. Granted, tonight was against Rock Falls, and that's a team that's struggling in the Big Northern, but I like them. I think they're pretty solid. All depends on how they get that bracket lined up, but yeah, I do. I think they could make a run. Thanks for the Maine West score, Alex. I appreciate it. Okay. So I just put all those crossovers in the mid-sub in there, so those will be done when we get back down to them. Now I got to put that Maine West score in there. 27-19. Okay. Chicagoland Christian. All right. Down to 2 scores. Quincy, Notre Dame, Springfield Southeast. Christopher and Hamilton County, and I think I'm going to have another one here in a second. Christ the King at St. Edward. I was right. So 3 games missing right now. Quincy, Notre Dame, Springfield Southeast, Hamilton County, and Christopher. Christ the King and St. Edward. It's a Saturday game. Wheaton Academy over Chicago Christian. That's a nice win there. I like that Chicago Christian team. And then St. Bede all over Walther Christian, 61-0. Seneca takes care of Ottawa Marquette. All right, so now moving into the public league. I think I was only missing one score there, so we'll check and see. I'm going to go through it as fast as I can. All right, so I am missing one score, I believe. I'm about to sneeze here in a second, so I apologize in advance. Corliss and Diet is the score that I'm looking for. Thanks for the Quincy Notre Dame score. Appreciate it. So now we're back to 3. Hamilton County and Christopher. Christ the King, St. Edward, and Corliss Diet. Three to 0. Okay. Moving along pretty good here. I said some of these scores I've already been able to get in, so we're going to have a little bit easier time. Okay. Had to do a little restructuring there. I apologize. Come on. Let's go. My Google Sheet was not working very well right there. Okay. So I think I have all the Duquesne finals put in, but Charles East gets their first win tonight. Very good. And then Crystal Lake South and Williamson Central. Okay, so now I'm down to the heart of Central Illinois. I got a few of those scores, but Eureka wins 47-0. I had that one already. El Paso 28-6 over Ridgeview. I did not have that one. And Tri-Valley beat Shelbyville 52-13. Okay. Now we're going into the small. So Gibson City 37-8 over Fisher. Warrensburg Latham 35-12 over Hayworth. Okay, that one's interesting. I'll give it that one. I think Warrensburg might be a little bit better than I think. Tuscola beat Meridian. I don't know why that wasn't in there. I had that game was actually last night. And Leroy wins 49-0 over Fieldcrest. All right. So on to the Illini Prairie. Biggest surprise there was Paxton's win over Bloomington Central Catholic, in my mind. Paxton out to a 3-0 start. I'm going to apologize to my friends in Paxton right now. I was not giving you proper credit, so that will be amended in this week's playoff projection. I am sure they will be a new team entering the field after I did not have them in. Rantoul beats Pontiac. That's a rare win for Rantoul tonight. And then St. Joe Ogden, 49-20 over Prairie Central. Toronto Unity will win it. Okay. So the three scores I'm missing right now: Hamilton County and Christopher, Christ the King and St. Edward, Corliss and Diet. Yeah. Okay, Interstate 8. Excuse me, Illinois Central 8. Mantino with the win over Herscher. That puts them at 3-0 for the first time in a while. Full City beats Streeter 56-6. Wilmington keeps rolling along 56-7 over Lisle. Okay. So now we're going to go back into the independents. I believe Belleville-Altoff won over Belleville East tonight. They were scoring a bunch of points, I do know that. Yes, Altoff wins 49-21 over Belleville East. Okay. Next up in the independents is the Collinsville-Cardinaldale game. Collinsville with a 27-8 win. Okay. Farmington 42-18 over St. Teresa. So where are we at here? Three games missing: Hamilton County, Christopher, Christ the King, St. Edward, and Corliss and Diet. As we're right now, we're in the independent class. And now we're not in the independent class. We're in the Interstate 8. So, as we move down the list, Cameron 42, DeKalb 7. Okay. So LaSalle Peru beats Ottawa in the first of two meetings between those two teams. All right. And then Rochelle beat Highland. I do know that. Nice win for them tonight over a pretty historically good Highland team. Price 34-0. Good job, Paul. Thank you. Price the King is 3-0. Wouldn't have bet on that. Yeah, that is a fun fact, Alex. I bet you that's ever happened. It has been a real long time. Okay. But Kankakee also isn't 3-0, Alex. They lost to Nazareth in week 1. Okay, right now I'm on the Kishwaukee River. Well, Sandwich, nice win for Sandwich tonight, getting back on track. Easy win for them. And then Woodstock North, 2-0 after a 20-14, or 3-0 after a 20-14 win. So that's a team that's kind of coming out of nowhere. All right, on to the Lincoln Prairie. We're almost halfway done. Arcola 33-14. Aha. Okay, that makes sense. I accept that as an answer. All right, so the only score we're missing right now is a public league score between Corliss and Dyett. Okay, I found the Villa Grove score. $62-13, Comus. Okay, Cumberland and Sullivan. Sullivan wins that one 42-6. All right. So now we're moving out of that conference and into the Lincoln Prairie Large. Okay, Bureau Valley over Lewistown, 46-16. I'm going to be really interested to see what the count is tonight on 3-0 teams. I feel like we have a lot of them, but I'm going to be interested to see what the actual count is after tonight's games. There's a lot of 3-0s out there, I think, and there are a lot of 3-0s that I'm not used to being 3-0. I know I saw this scored earlier, but it's not showing up where I usually. Elmwood and West Hancock is a game that I'm looking for right now. Yeah, Grant, I watched a lot of that game tonight on the feed, and I was really impressed with Byron. I thought I would be. That game was not close. That's, once again, I think that's just going to be an extremely difficult team to knock out in the 3A rank. Okay, now I'm looking for Knoxville and Princeville. So we're missing 2 games right now. Corliss and Dyett, Knoxville, Princeville. Thanks, Alex. Lincoln Prairie Small Conference is what I'm working on now. And the answer is Havana. Yeah, I knew that. Havana wins over South Fulton. 20-0. 6. Stark County over Abingdon. 40-16. Okay. So missing a couple out of the Lincoln Prairie tonight. The Lincoln Trail Prairie. Prairie Land. Still looking for Knoxville and Princeville, Anawan, Wethersfield, and Rushville, and Rova, Monmouth United. So we've got a couple out of that league. We're missing those. So I'll skip that for now, and then we'll go back to that one. Okay. Now I'm in the Little Illini. Saw a couple of those scores earlier. Casey Westfield off to a nice start to start the season. They beat Newton tonight, 36-3. Newton. Lawrenceville loses to Richland, 49-7. Paris beats Marshall, 35-20. Okay. So I'm missing Mount Carmel and Robinson. Okay, Mount Carmel and Robinson, where are you? They have moved that game to Saturday, so that explains why I can't find that one. All right, on to the Middle Illini. Rushville, thank you. Princeville, Knoxville, thank you. Okay. We can cross those two off. Rushville with a nice win. Okay, I like that Rushville team. Okay. So those two are in now. So we're down to two. Corliss Diet, Rova, and Monmouth United. Grant, I don't think so. I don't think any of the teams in the Big Northern are going to push Byron, to be honest with you, based on what I saw tonight against what I still think is a pretty good 3A level team. I would be surprised. If anyone can, it would be Dixon. But I'm skeptical of that as well. I really like Dixon too. I think that's how good Byron is. Okay. Middle Illini. Someone just updated me with a partial score on Corliss Diet, but I think that's what I'm looking for. The gap is so wide on that score that I think I'll mark it down and get the final later. Washington over Metamora. East Peoria over Limestone. East Peoria 3-0. Boy, we are getting some wild 3-0 teams in here. Teams that I don't know if I ever remember being 3-0. Morton, Oliver, Canton. Right now, Paul, I think Wilmington is going to be a 3A team. Unless some things really change, I think that Wilmington is going to be a small 3A team this year. It's really not that long since Wilmington was always a 3A team. It's the way it used to be. Okay. Now I'm in the Mississippi Valley. Some of these scores I had already, so that should go fairly quickly. Okay. Doing really well for this early in the evening. School wins 35-0. Triad wins 43-25. Mississippi Valley. Okay, got another one I'm looking for now. Waterloo and Centralia. So 3 games total. Libertyville beats Stevenson. Forest won. Boy, Lake Forest all over Warren tonight. That was a surprise. That's because I took them out with the tennis balls earlier this afternoon and ran them to death before the show came on. So, but I bet that changes. The dogs will begin barking at some point soon. They've been ignored for too long. Okay, missing a couple of scores out of the North Suburban tonight. Lake Zurich and Waukegan, and Mundelein and Zion Benton. Okay. I found a Lake Zurich game, so we're at 4 games right now. Corliss Diet, Rova, Monmouth United, Waterloo Centralia, and Mundelein Zion Benton. Mundelein wins 17-6. Thank you. Okay. All right. So, 3 games: Corliss Diet, Rova, Monmouth United, Waterloo Centralia. Looks like we're going to be adding a few more here too. There we go. Excellent. Thank you, Weather. Waterloo 27-26. All right. Good stuff. Hello, Tucker. One of my dogs is coming to join me right now. The quiet one. Okay. So now we're back to Corliss and Diet right now. But like I said, I have a friend that gave me the information. I'm pretty confident that I can put that final in. But I am missing a couple of scores out of the Northern Illinois 10. I am looking for Belvedere and Freeport. And the other one is Guilford and Auburn. So back up to 3, Belvedere, Freeport, Guilford, and Auburn. And Corliss and Diet. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to go down to the Northern Lake County. Okay, Grays Lake North loses 33-57. Wakanda wins that one 57-33. All right, so I'm at about 60 games that I need to find scores for at this point, which is ridiculously good for midnight. So, doing real well. But I'm adding another one to the list. Nope, I am not. I just found it. Grays Lake Central, 36-33. So Guilford and Auburn, 47-0. Thank you. So just breezing along right here. Freeport beats Belvedere. 1938. Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to put that coreless score in because I believe that to be who won. And it goes down. So now we're moving into the conferences that start with S, which means we're getting close. Actually, no, I got to do Northwest Upstate Illini first. I lied. Okay. So right now we're not missing any scores. We have everything. As we move into the last 15 or so conferences, maybe 20 conferences left to go. All right, so Morrison beats Galesburg, 31-14. Okay. So I'm looking for a Fulton Eastland. Nope, never mind. I found it. Wow. Eastland Pearl City all over Fulton tonight. I think I'm going to have to do a reassessment of that conference because there are some scores that are coming in tonight that are very surprising. Okay, so now I need Dakota and Dupec out of the Northwest Upstate Illini. So that is the lone missing score at this point in time. Okay, Olympia over Pittsfield, 43-34. (26-21). Everything's over Pleasant Plains. UPEC wins 46-0. Thank you. Okay. So, got to put some more of these in. Interesting. Does anybody know why I'm showing a couple of games moved to Monday? Aurora, Forsyth, and Auburn. And Athens and Pleasant Plains. But I also saw a score for that earlier. So I'm confused. Yeah, there we go. So I'm seeing Moreau, Forsyth, and Auburn moved on Monday. That's not right, is it? So I'm questioning whether or not that Moreau, Forsyth, Auburn information is correct. So I'm going to go look somewhere else for that. No, there it is. 57-7 Marilla. I thought that was weird. Southern Illinois, Mississippi. Okay. Nashville wins 42-0. I had that one already. DuQuoin wins 31-0. And Jonesboro loses to Nassau County. Okay. All right, so looks like I'm missing a couple from here. All right, so missing Harrisburg and Pinckneyville. And I'm going to Carterville over Frankfurt, 21-16. I needed that one. Okay. So I'm through those two schools. Murfreesboro wins that one 28-20. So I'm missing Harrisburg and Pinckneyville. And that's the one that I need right now, the only one that I need. I'm going to take a 5-minute break here, go to the bathroom for a second, and I will be right back to finish up the last 50 games or so. All righty. Back at it. Once again, the only score right now that I'm missing is Harrisburg and Pinckneyville from Southern Illinois. So now we're in the South Central Conference. Leaves us about, I want to say maybe 15 more conferences to go, but I've got some of the scores in from some of those games. So it shouldn't be that much longer. 55-6. 55. Vandalia, 42-8 over Carlinville. Comfortable win for them. All right. All right, got another one that I might be having some problems with here. And check one more source. I found it. So Litchfield North Mac. Litchfield 1427. There we go. There's the Barker. She's back. Just chatting up a storm with nothing. Okay. Marion over Mount Vernon. Okay, so out of the South 7 now into the South Suburban Blue. Oak Forest beat Hillcrest tonight. That is a big win for Oak Forest. I don't think they've done that in a while. Lamont over Tinley Park, so Lamont gets their first win of the season. Okay, Evergreen Park over Oak Lawn. Richards over Eisenhower. Argo over Revis. Wow, okay. I think that puts Argo at 3-0. That has not happened in a while either. There's another one. Yeah, Argo. Okay, Southland Conference. Creed over Harvey, 64-0. All right, so moving into about the last 40 games here that we need to fill out. Once again, that's the only one I'm missing. Harrisburg and Pinckneyville. Okay. Now we're in the Southwest Valley. Lockport, that's a good win for them tonight. Over Nequa. 2-1 out of the box. Naperville North beat Lincoln Way Central 21-20. Bradley over Wabanzi 20-17. So the Boilermakers are 3-0. All right, Lincoln Way West over Matea 40-7. Okay. Naperville Central and Andrew 31-14. Northern Park Sandburg, they beat Homewood tonight. That was a wild one. 63-34 for Sandberg. Okay, I'm going to shut my door because my dog's being a jerk. Okay. So now I'm into the Southwestern Conference. Most of those teams are playing tomorrow. Fallon ended up losing to St. Mary's from St. Louis. What did Edwardsville end up doing? Alton. Oh, Winnie, be quiet. Okay, I'm missing a Belleville West, Normandy, Missouri score. Okay, Belleville. I found the Belleville West score. And the Edwardsville game is tomorrow. Okay, into the Southwest Prairie now. Yorkville over Joliet West, 31-8. (31-12). Plainfield North over Plainfield South. And Bolingbrook beat Romeoville 48-19. Oh my goodness, dog, you're just being a brat right now. Okay, on to the Three Rivers. Monmouth over Kewanee. Mendota over Hall. Excuse me, Hall over Mendota. Okay. All right, so now we've got Three Rivers Rock Conference, Rockridge 48-27. Mercer County 56-41 winners tonight. Newman Central 41-13. Okay. So Now we're into the Upstate 8. So we have 9 more conferences to go here. And someone found the Harrisburg score for me, so thank you. Thanks, Paul. I got one loud dog and one quiet dog, and they're both sitting right next to me right now, so hopefully that will keep them somewhat calm. So now we're going to go to the Upstate 8, like I said. Less than about 50 teams left to input, so about 25 games. Fenton, 3-0. My goodness. There are a lot of surprise 3-0s. Dunbar South over West Chicago, 63-8. Ridgewood over Riverside Brookfield, 31-14. Okay. Crossover game was Glenbard East, 47-14 over Bartlett. And then Streamwood with 36-13 win. South Elgin, 56-0 over Larkin. West Aurora, 56-0 over Elgin. So that's 3-0 for them. West Aurora off to a nice start. Now we're on to the Vermilion Valley. And then the W conferences. And then we're home. I'll know that in a little bit, Paul. As soon as we get home, that's the first thing that I look for, to see how many teams got through 3-0. I think it'll be a pretty healthy number, to be completely honest with you. 13. Going to Iroquois West. Central and Georgetown play tomorrow. Okay. Let's see if I can find that one. Watseka and Oakwood out of the Vermilion Valley. So right now, Watseka, Oakwood, the only score that I don't have. Last time I saw that game was tied at 22. But I do not have a final. So on to the Western Suburban, Watseka 28. Thank you, Paul. 28-22 for Watseka. Okay, Western Suburbs. Addison Trail loses 28-39. Willow Park Willowbrook 39-28. Portland Proviso East 40-6. 6-40. Leiden loses 38-0 to Hinsdale South. Crossover game, York beats DGS 54-21. Okay. So I got one more division to do here. Downers Grove North won. I do know that. 42-7. Lions fended off Hinsdale Central, 21-16. All right. I think I'm going to have one out of this conference that I won't be able to find. Yep. Oak Park River Forest and Proviso West is now the only game that I'm missing. Just 3 more conferences to go. Sterling 27-26 over East Moline United. Quincy beats Rock Island 48-7. Moline beats Geneseo 51-21. All right, so now on to the Western Illinois Valley. The only score I'm currently missing, Oak Park River Forest, Proviso East. So Oak Park wins 56-0, so I'm not missing that one either. So one more 12-team conference. We'll have everything inputted from Friday night before 12:30. That's astonishing. Okay. So, on to the Western Illinois Valley. Camp Point Central, 41-0 over Beardstown. Brown County, 32-0 over Unity. All right, last 3 games. And, of course, there's going to be one that I need. Calhoun, 69-6 over North Green. Greenfield over Pleasant Hill, 32-0. It looks like the lone holdout right now is Winchester West Central and Carrollton. I just found it. West Central, a 12-7 winner. Okay. I'll do a quick search here, make sure I'm not missing any Friday games that I did not input. And I'm not. They're all in. Okay, so let's take a quick look at some of the numbers. All right, so there are exactly 100 teams at 3-0 right now. And there are another 6 teams that can join them next week or tomorrow with games. So 100 3-0s, 6 2-0s. Just a quick glance. I'm trying to look for 3-0 against 3-0s. Not seeing any so far. Okay, West Central and Hardin Calhoun is 1. Cesar and White County is another. Rockford Boylan Belvedere North is another. Rochelle and Sycamore is another. Not undefeated, but that's a heck of a game. Marist Joliet Catholic on the schedule for week 4. That should be fun. Okay. Batavia, St. Charles North. Peatone, Wilmington. St. Viator and Bennett. Wilmington, Peatone, like you said. I think that's probably it. All right, so let's do the other fun thing that I like to do real quick. Strength of schedule leaders. Conant has the strongest schedule in the state right now, followed by Wheaton, Warrenville South, Morris, IC Catholic, St. Charles East, Granite City, Elmwood Park, Alton Marquette, Glenbard West, and Tremont. That is your top 10 in strength of schedule right now. So, all right. Well, we've got all the Friday games in. Might be in world record time. I don't believe I've ever had them done before 12:30. So thanks for everyone's help. Got a decent slate of Saturday games tomorrow, but kind of thin, to be honest with you. So there are, let's see, about 25 games statewide with Saturday. The most interesting ones to me on the schedule, East St. Louis is playing Imotech Charter out of Philadelphia. They're both ranked nationally in the top 100. Other games that I'm kind of interested in seeing what happens tomorrow. A lot of public league games, not a lot that stand out in that group. And other than that, that is about it. Heavy public league, and like I said, the interesting East St. Louis game. Edwardsville has a good game against a Missouri team, Jackson, Missouri, which will be a good game for them. So, yep, that wraps up tonight, and I will call it there. And thanks for joining me, and thanks for help with all the scores tonight, guys. I really appreciate it. We'll see you next week.